Today we're going to cover dividing fractions. So dividing fractions is very similar to multiplying fractions, but we do have a song that reminds us of our rules. So the rule for dividing fractions is to keep, change, and flip. So we're going to sing this song, and the song is dividing fractions, don't ask why, flip the second and multiply. So we're going to fill in those blanks. So dividing fractions, don't ask why, flip the second and multiply. So remember, multiplying is top times top and bottom times bottom. So we know that part, but we got to figure out what this flip the second means. So when they say flip the second, they are talking about the second fraction. Okay, so again, the song goes, dividing fractions, don't ask why, flip the second and multiply. So some of the vocabulary that you might see that tells you to divide are going to be words like the word divide. You might see the word quotient, goes into, in is a really big one, okay, in. How many is tricky because it does mean multiply and divide. So you have to be careful about the one, how many, but it is a good indicator. Split is a good one. Again, in, each is a good one, but again, it is both multiply and divide, so you have to be careful. And then servings, okay? So those are just some of the vocabulary words that we are gonna use to identify a division problem. So one more time, our song is dividing fractions, don't ask why, flip the second and multiply. So when it says flip the second, what they're talking about is called a reciprocal. Okay, a reciprocal is just a fancy math word that means to flip the fraction over. Okay, so we're going to create the reciprocals for these four fractions. So the reciprocal of 4/7 would just be 7/4. Okay, the reciprocal for 2/3 would be 3/2. The reciprocal for 6/10 would be 10/6. And the reciprocal for 12/15 would just be 15/12. And again, all I'm doing is taking the fraction and flipping it over. And that is called a reciprocal. Reciprocal. That's a fancy math word that just means flip that fraction over. All right, so we are going to divide. And like I said, our rule for dividing fractions is keep, change, flip. And that's just what this song says. We're going to keep our first number. We're going to change our sign to multiplication, and we're going to flip that second fraction over. So I'm going to write my KCF on top of my division problem. I only use this with division. Okay, so I have 3/10 divided by 4/7. So dividing fractions, don't ask why. Flip the second and multiply. Okay, and so again, we're leaving that first fraction. So we keep it, changed our sign, and we flipped it. And now we know multiplying is just top times top, bottom times bottom. So I'm going to draw my arrows straight across, and I'm going to multiply. So 3 times 7 is 21, 10 times 4 is 40. Okay, so then I'm going to ask myself, can I simplify? Can I reduce? Can I take anything out of 21 and 40? And the answer to that is no. So I'm going to write my final answer, 21/40, and I'm going to circle it because that's my final answer for that problem. Okay, so our next problem is 4/5 divided by 1/3. 4/5 divided by 1/3. So I see the division symbol, I see my fractions, so I'm going to keep it, change it, flip it. I'm going to dividing fractions, don't ask why, flip the second and multiply. So again, I flipped my second fraction over and I changed my symbol to multiplication. And I keep my first fraction the same. Okay, so I keep, I change, and I flip. And now I'm just going to top times top and bottom times bottom. So 4 times 3 is 12. and 5 times 1 is 5. And then this is improper, okay? When the cowboy is bigger than the horse, when the top number is bigger than the denominator, this is improper. So we're gonna use our backwards check mark to put it back into a mixed number. So I'm gonna set up my house. I'm gonna put my cowboy inside. I'm gonna leave my horse outside. He's gonna take off his boots and hat, okay? So 5 does not go into 1, but it does go into 12 2 times. 2 times 5 is 10. We subtract, and because we are making a fraction and not a decimal, we are going to stop right there because we've reached our decimal, and we're gonna backwards check mark. So I have a whole 2 with a remainder of 2 out of 5. So I have 2 and 2/5. Okay? All right, and then our next example problem is going to be 1 and 2/5 divided by 1/2. Okay, so when we are multiplying and dividing fractions, we can't work with mixed numbers. So we have to turn them into improper fractions. So I'm going to Texas popcorn, TX. I start at the bottom and I work my way up. So that's going to be 5 times 1 is 5, and 5 plus 2 is 7. So this fraction is 7 over 5. I haven't changed anything. These are equivalent. They are equal. Okay, I just Texas popcorned it to make it look like an improper fraction so that we can easily keep it, change it, flip it, or top times top, bottom times bottom. Okay, so then I need to go and keep it, change it, flip it. Okay, dividing fractions, don't ask why. Flip the second and multiply. Okay, so we've already made this into improper. I didn't flip anything, okay? This was a Texas popcorn. These are equivalent. All right, so now I'm going to top times top, bottom times bottom. And so 7 times 2 equals 14, and 5 times 1 equals 5. So again, this is improper, okay? The top number is bigger than the bottom number. My cowboy is much bigger than my horse. So I need to come over here to the side, and I need to set up my division so that I can backwards check mark. So I'm gonna put my cowboy inside, take off his boots, hang up his hat, and park his horse outside. So 5 does not go into 1, but it goes into 14 twice. 2 times 5 is gonna be 10. We subtract and we get 4. Because I'm not making a decimal, I'm gonna stop. If I was making a decimal, I would add some zeros and keep dividing. Because I'm making a mixed number, I'm gonna backwards check mark from that point. So I have a whole 2 with a remainder of 4 out of 5. I have a whole 2 with a remainder of 4 out of 5. Okay, and that's my final answer. And then my very last fraction is going to be 2 mixed numbers. And again, we cannot multiply and divide when they are in a mixed form. So the first thing that I have to do is I need to Texas popcorn those so that they are nice and friendly for multiplying and dividing. So I TX and popcorn, and I'm going to get 4 times 2 is 8, 8 plus 3 is 11, and remember we keep that denominator of 4. On this side we have 8 times 1 is 8, and 8 plus 3 is 11, and over 8. Now notice I haven't done my division rule yet. I haven't kept it, changed it, or flipped it. Okay, so I'm gonna do that now. So I'm gonna go on top and write my KCF. Okay, now that they're in standard fraction form, keep it, change it, flip it. Remember, dividing fractions, don't ask why. Flip the seconds and multiply. So we keep, we change to multiplication, and we flipped the fraction over. We found the reciprocal. So now I am ready to top times top, bottom times bottom. And I know 11 times 8 is 88. And 4 times 11 is 44. So again, I have come up with an improper fraction. Because it is improper, we wouldn't want to leave it that way. So I'm going to set up my division. and backwards check marks. So I'm gonna put my cowboy in the house, 88. He's gonna take off his boots and hat, and I'm gonna park my horse outside. So 44 does not go into 8, but it goes into 88 2 times. 2 times 44 is 88, and I do not have a remainder. So instead of having a mixed number, I'm just gonna have a whole number. So my answer for this problem is simply 2. Okay, because there is no, it would be 2 and 0/44, and 0/44 is not a thing. Okay, and that is how we divide fractions. One more time, dividing fractions, don't ask why. Flip the second and multiply. Have a great day, guys.